Welcome back to The Great Detour. Today's episode is for the ladies, especially if you've been feeling stuck, burnt out, or like you're just going through the motions in life. I'm joined by Dr. Wendy O'Connor, a Stanford-trained clinical psychologist who now coaches women on how to create lives that they truly love. It was during one of the busiest chapters in her life, when she was raising 3 daughters under the age of 2, that Dr. Wendy realized something had to change. And yes, you heard me right, 3 kids under 2. She got pregnant with twins shortly after having her first daughter. Talk about a little bit of a detour. And even with a thriving private practice and everything she thought she wanted, Dr. Wendy found herself in survival mode. That's when she turned to positive psychology, the science of happiness, and it completely changed how she lives and how she leads. In this episode, we talk about burnout, boundaries, alignment, and what it means to thrive, not just survive. Dr. Wendy has such great energy and brings so much heart and grounded wisdom to this conversation. I think you're really going to love it. And if you've been enjoying the show so far, I'd love if you subscribed or left a 5-star rating or review. It helps more people find the show and allows these conversations to have an even greater impact. Now, here's my conversation with Dr. Wendy O'Connor. Welcome to The Great Detour. I'm Jess, your host. In this podcast, we talk about life's unplanned paths. Those experiences that challenge and transform us in ways we never expected. Through honest conversations, my guests and I share inspiring stories and practical advice to help you navigate your own journey. I hope these stories inspire you to trust your path, embrace change with resilience, and step into your most authentic, empowered self. Dr. Wendy O'Connor, welcome to The Great Detour.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So excited to have you here today. So we were just talking before we hopped on. You are in the midst of a move right now. How is that going for you?
Oh, well, it's going. It's absolutely bananas, but slow and steady is how I would say it's going. Closing on this house in the next 10 days. No house secured yet in our new destination. So there's another step we need to take and secure a home for us and our children. For some reason, I don't feel as stressed or worried about that as it was stressful around selling this house. So it's interesting because there's so many parts of life and things that we go through in life that we anticipate as a more stressful or less stressful period. And I'm like, this is interesting. I would think I'd be more stressed about a new house than selling this current one. But honestly, I'm like, oh, that will work out. That's fine. It'll be fine.
I love that perspective. Sometimes you just have to take those steps in life and know like you don't have control over what's happening, but it's just going to work out somehow. And I'm very impressed with how calm and collected you are, and you're recording a podcast in the midst of it.
Yeah, honestly, it feels like, and this is actually what I preach as well. So it makes sense that this is how I'm approaching the situation. We can't base our happiness or our fulfillment or our courage on guaranteeing things are going to go exactly the way we want to. Like, we can't have the cart before the horse. We have to go through it. But as long as we trust ourselves, then we'll be fine. So I feel like I have no control over putting more houses on the market. I have no control over the school districts that we're like adamant about. There's things like that we don't have say over. But what I know is that we'll be fine. It's a house. We'll make it a home. We'll figure it out. It's not going to deter me from making bold moves in my life. I'm just going to lean into trusting myself because that is something I have control over.
Oh, I'm so here for this energy. I'm so here for it. I love it. I'm trying to be the same way. I feel like in the past, I would only feel okay about doing things or taking risks if I could control the outcome. And I'm stepping into this chapter where I'm trying to be more emboldened and trust myself, where I just follow my heart and I know that maybe I don't know all the logistics or how it's going to work out, but that it's going to work out in the end. So I'm absolutely loving the perspective you're bringing about this move that you have.
What is an example? Like, what is something that in the past you would have said, okay, I have to have control over the outcome or the result? What would be an example of that you had ultimate control over it? Do you remember?
Like off the top of my head, I'm trying to think. Like, I would never leave a job without something lined up. You always have to have like the next step crystallize and know what's going to happen next. Things like that. Just have like a plan in place. But I'm in this season now where I'm really trying to trust my gut more. And sometimes your gut is leading you in certain directions, but like the next step isn't necessarily clear. You just know where you're being drawn to.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. So,
Of course it does. I feel like a lot of women come into my world with that exact approach of,
mhm,
I know I want something to change. I know this isn't ultimately it. I know I'm going to need to be courageous and bold in my decision making. I really want more control than I have.
mhm.
So how do I trust myself, or how do I make aligned decisions in a general direction without having all of my T's crossed and all of my I's dotted?
Exactly. Actually, and now I'm thinking of it, my divorce was a big one, like not knowing what was on the other side of that, knowing that it was time to go, knowing that the relationship had expired a while ago and this was the highest and best thing for both parties, but not knowing what that looked like. And I just had to take a leap of faith and say, I know this is right for me and I know I'll figure out living situation, finances, friend groups, all of those things. And it did. It worked out. It fell into place better than I expected. And had I known it would be like this, I probably would have left sooner and not be so held back by fear. So that was a great
Yeah,
question.
that's such a good example. It's funny because I think even the situations where we tell ourselves we have more control over the outcome, like lining up the next job before you quit the current one,
Mm-hmm.
we still don't have guarantees. One, that you'll like the job, one, that it'll last, that you won't get fired, that there's all of these variables we tell ourselves that we have more control than we typically do. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
like this false perception. And then at the flip of the coin, like you're saying, if I only maybe made this choice earlier, I could have been this much happier sooner. Like, why didn't I just lean into knowing fear is a very natural passenger in this journey? I cannot avoid it. There's nothing I can do to avoid it. So what if I had embraced it earlier? Right? That's often a regret that people have, is I just wish I did this sooner. Why did I let fear hold me back?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that more that you do it, you kind of condition yourself to get used to it and it becomes less scary for the next thing that comes along because you can refer back to that experience and say, okay, I did that. I survived it. It actually turned out okay. So I know it builds self-trust almost. You know that it worked before. And then when you follow your intuition and trust yourself, that things will just work out. So,
Yeah, that must be why I'm not freaking out. As being the soon to be homeless family of five, I don't feel worried. It's so strange, but it just does. It feels grounded. It just feels like our home just isn't yet on the market. It is coming. It will happen. It's just a matter of time, and we can bridge time. It's fine. What's the worst that happens? We post up somewhere for a temporary period. It's okay. It's all going to work out. We're not going to be homeless forever. So, yeah, there must be, like you're saying, there's that muscle that you flex over time, much like at the gym. And maybe because I've lived my life over and over again this way of trusting self, making bold moves, that it just gets a little bit less freaky to go bold again, because you just have experience now and your brain now has evidence. My brain has evidence that everything up until this point has worked out. It doesn't mean it's been linear. It doesn't mean it's been a straight shot. It does not mean that there haven't been, I mean, I could spend our entire podcast talking about all the detours during just right now that we're currently on. But at the end of the day, you zoom out to a 1,000-foot view and everything does ultimately work out.
It does. Not linear at all, but you get where you need to be in the end. So I absolutely love that. I'm so excited to have you on the show because I'm so interested in all things psychology. I'm just so fascinated by why we do the things we do, and then how we can harness that understanding to really live the most expansive, fulfilling lives possible. And you have a focus on positive psychology, which I'm excited to get into because I actually don't know that much about it. So I'm excited to learn more about what positive psychology is and how we can apply it in our own lives. But I'd love to start off by talking a little bit about you and your story and your detour, because I know, like so many of us, you were working really hard toward a path that you had set out for yourself. And then life does what it does. It happened, and you were thrown some detours and curveballs, and that brought you to where you are today. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your story and where it brought you today.
Absolutely. And it's funny sharing the story because now, as I'm currently going through another major detour of life, and I'm not fully through it, this will be so interesting to reflect back on the
Yeah.
meaning of this detour in my life and where that led me to next. So, yeah, that's very interesting to think about. So, my detour story, I knew in 7th grade that I wanted to be a psychologist. We had a teacher come in who was teaching us all about psychology, and one of her classes was about what you would do in a career as a psychologist. And she shared that clinical psychologists are people that may have their own practice. They help people feel better, depression, anxiety, relationship issues. And in seventh grade, which is so funny because now it's my daughter's going into seventh grade next year, which is, I don't know how this happens. But at that moment, I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I could get paid to give people advice. I'm already doing this with my friends. Like I do this every day. My friends ask me for advice all the time. This could be my career. I'm in. Sign me up. I've got it. And I never swayed from that, which I think is so bizarre. I just didn't. I just felt right. It sat well with me. I thought I'm going to be a psychologist. And then my path actually was relatively linear for that journey. It went right from through middle school into high school into college, undergrad into graduate school, finished with my doctorate in clinical psych back in dinosaur ages now, 2008 or whatever. And then I joined a group practice, worked there for a couple of years. Then I had my first daughter where I made that decision. I could either work for someone else's dreams or I could branch out and live for my own. So I used the moment my first daughter was born, because there'd be a break in working anyway, to actually transition to private practice. Grew 2 private practices, thriving practices. I'd see 40 patients a week in like 4 days.
Wow.
And it was great. It was fulfilling. I loved it so much. But then, as life happens, when my first daughter was 6 months old, I got pregnant with twins. And so I then had 3 daughters under 2. They were 15 months apart, my first one and then the twin girls. And all of a sudden, life felt very different than it had for the last several years. And I started to feel what people would describe as languishing, survival mode, checking the boxes, living on default, autopilot. I would live my days just thinking, oh my gosh, just try to get to the nighttime, just try to get to night. And then the nighttime would come and I'd say, just tomorrow's a new day. Everything starts over again. Everything's temporary. Just keep moving forward. And I soon realized it's not the way I'm wired to live in survival mode or to live in languishing. Like I'm a very zest-filled person. I love positivity. I love optimism. I love opportunities in life. And I started to research what is going on with me because I'm not depressed. I'm just feeling not quite like myself. And I came across positive psychology and understanding, because I said to myself, I have spent years of my career helping people go from struggling with anxiety or struggling with depression, struggling to high functioning, being able to live their life. But what I didn't focus on was helping people go from surviving or functioning to thriving. And I was at this period of my life wondering, how does one thrive? I know how to survive. I know how to help people work through symptoms and feel better. But how do we get people to actually feel like they're fulfilled and thriving? That's where positive psychology came in, the science of happiness. And I was like so happily surprised that there was a science of happiness. And I thought, I can't believe this has been researched enough for us to know what it truly takes to make people happy. So I started to implement what I was learning. I started to dig myself out of this languishing autopilot life and stepping into a thriving, fulfilling, flourishing life. And then I decided, because this, of course, I take everything that I learn, I'm like, oh, I need to serve others with this as well. Then I made a big decision to start shutting down my practices and opening up a coaching business, really to help women around the world learn how to actually thrive and to not settle for a life that doesn't light you up and excites you.
That's incredible. Well, first of all, can we just take a moment? 3 children under 2 years old. How are you still standing? Oh
I hardly remember those days.
my
I mean,
God.
thank goodness I have pictures, because I have pictures of the last day. All 3 were in diapers. And I was like, that's it. We're done. And I just thought, oh my goodness, how it was survival mode. But you don't remember a lot of the details. I remember nights being long, especially with the twins and feeding twins in the night and all of that. I remember some nights being long. I remember it being a little logistically strange. But overall, I don't remember the 3 of them. I don't remember it being a very hard season, like sad. It was more just energetically taxing and trying to kind of create in my mind a new normal of expectations. So like, how should I feel every day? And I stopped asking myself, how should I feel? And I started asking myself, how do I want to feel? And that is actually a strategy I use every day with clients now, is telling you, if you start your day every morning and just ask yourself, how do I want to feel today? And you take 10 seconds to identify an emotion that comes to mind, this is going to help your day feel much more intentional. And so I started to just stack intentional day after intentional day and seize the moments I could and release when I didn't have the energy. And I just kind of messily navigated through it. And yeah, I mean, you don't remember all the details, but we're all here and we're happy and healthy. So that's a good sign.
You made it happen.
You
Yeah.
need it.
But I love that mindset shift of how do I want to feel? Because I feel like it's so often that we think we should be doing something. We should be feeling a certain way when in reality, we're all in our own lanes and on our own journeys and in our own different chapters. So, one day I might want to feel relaxed and calm. The next day I might want to feel really ambitious and motivated, and that changes. So I think that's such a brilliant mindset to have, to not force yourself into some box of how you think you should be functioning and actually tap into what feels intuitively right for you that day and lean into that. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah. Most people do not start their day by asking themselves that question. They start their day feeling behind or feeling stressed or overwhelmed or like there's a weight on their chest. And if you just pause before you get out of bed and ask yourself this one question, this is going to change the trajectory of your day. And if you stack these together, your life, because it's just literally one moment at a time, one day at a time. And when we take the reins and say, it's not about like, how do I feel or how should I feel, but what do I actually crave and want? Then you also allow yourself, like you're saying, that permission. Some days I get to relax and take my foot off the gas, but some days I naturally want to lean in and really feel ambitious and productive. And we get to give ourselves that permission just to be a dynamic human going through all different stages of energy and emotional states. And that's all okay. Instead of feeling like we're supposed to be Energizer bunnies, we're supposed to be productive from morning till night, we're supposed to get X number of things done, which just robs us of not only our authenticity and our truth, but joy and happiness.
Did you ever find that you were comparing yourself to others around you? Like I do that sometimes where I might be in a season where I'm needing rest. I'm needing to slow down, but my friend might be in a season of building where she's go, go, go. And sometimes I'll compare and be like, oh, maybe I should be doing more. Did you find yourself doing that at all?
I would say that weeds itself in sometimes. It never was a particular chapter of life that I felt it more than others. It's just more so a natural thing I think we experience, especially with friendships or relationships, and then especially on social media, right? There have been times that I would be taking a day to just relax, and then I'd see someone doing something, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, well, if I just turned up the dial a little bit today, I could really crush it, and then have to remind myself that today doesn't have to be a crush it day. Today gets to be a recovery day, much like the gym. I'm not going to go and lift really heavy weights every day. My muscles will never recover and they'll never do what I actually want them to do.
Exactly.
If we think about that the same way, it's like those recovery days are just as important as the lean in days. So, comparison to me, I can't recall if there was a time that it really felt like I'm comparing and I'm jealous and I feel worse about who I am than watching what they do. I feel like I've had a very deliberate relationship with comparison where I really do try, and I succeed most of the time, to take comparison as an opportunity for me to see what's possible too. I really do. When I see someone crushing it, when I see a woman out there who's killing it or so balanced or has it all or whatever, I think if she can, so can I. Why can't I if she can? Like she's living proof of the thing that I'm looking for or the direction I'm headed. So she's just showing that this is real and this can exist. So why not me too?
I love that perspective.
Where a lot of people, I think, look and say, oh, she's better than me, smarter, wealthier, more attractive, more educated, more certifications, whatever it is, and use that to put themselves down instead of looking at that as an opportunity to say, if she can, so can I. Let's go. What do I do?
Exactly. And not comparing where you are, like what stepping stones you're on in your journey, because maybe she had her rest season and now she's in her build season. And maybe you're just not there yet. So I love that perspective too, of just using those around you to inspire you and remind you that you have that potential in you as well. But also just staying focused on where you are in your journey and focusing on yourself and trusting yourself that the chapter you're in is exactly where you're supposed to be in that moment. Did you face any fear as you were kind of changing up your life? And so you shut down your clinical practice. Like, what did it feel like? Were you nervous to do that?
Yeah. And I didn't shut it down completely. I stopped taking new patients. I started graduating folks out when it was time. I just slowly let that start to shrink as not the primary focus completely of my world anymore. I felt more burnt out from clinical world, especially because I had three babies at home that of course were pulling and needing more energy. And I realized that I didn't have energy for everyone. And so that started to shrink. And then I started to grow the coaching side slowly as well. And so it didn't feel drastic enough to feel terrified, but it absolutely was this major unknown. I'm going to go from being known as a clinical psychologist to being known as what? A happiness coach, right?
I
And
think
then
that's so
people would,
cool, but yeah.
it's so cool. I agree. Thank you. Because I would say I have the coolest job in the world. I love what I do. But it was a really interesting transition when I talk about it. People's reactions were like, oh, you're going to lead this and you're going to, oh, okay, like good luck, like have fun. But there was definitely the unknown and the uncertainty. Will people get it? Will women get what I'm doing? Will they prioritize it? Because a lot of times, in our culture, we have been conditioned to prioritize, or we try to succeed at the whole quick fix and immediate gratification stuff, realizing we're chasing our tails and it's not working and we have to put in the work. But for a lot of people, the idea of doing the work to be happy, can easily not sound exciting. It can sound like work and people don't want to do work. So at the beginning, I was thinking, oh, are they going to get it? Are they going to understand what this is really about? And to my surprise, yes, women were like, this is exactly what I need. I'm so tired of checking the boxes in my life. I'm so tired of going through the motions of waking up feeling like it's just another Groundhog's Day. I wish I had more connection to what I love and what I want, who I am. So that's what led me to then say, okay, this is a viable idea. And then I created a program called Your Life by Design because I thought to myself, well, why don't we create this world where women can come in and they can either do self-study or they can come in live and learn the science of happiness and how you create a life by design that you love. And this was such a fun journey for me because it solidified what I was doing in my life. But also, the women who come into my world have a love of learning. There's a curiosity, there's an interest, there's value around personal growth and development. So it was such an exciting journey to go from folks who really do want support with mental health issues into this world of women like, I want to thrive, I want to flourish, I want to be happier, and driven and motivated to do it was really exciting to witness. And now it's what I do every day. So it is the best job ever.
No, it's a beautiful thing. And I love the concept of not just surviving, but flourishing and thriving. I think so often we check these boxes and we think, all right, this is it. And so many of us look around and we're wondering why we're not really happy. Like we did the things we're supposed to do. We're quote unquote successful, but not necessarily thriving. So tell me a little bit more about like, what are some misconceptions you think there are around what it takes to be happy?
The most common one is that happiness comes from having things or status. And that seems like a no-brainer. It's not surprising to hear. But if you take a pause and actually look at how you live your life, you'll see it far more than you think. So, and I say this, and I'm actually laughing inside because right before we started recording, I bought this really exciting skincare line.
I love skincare. You're speaking my language.
I was like, oh, so if you are watching Handmaid's Tale, Serena seems to be working with the skincare company. And I was like, that's it. Sign me up. That woman's skin is absolutely insane. I'll do
Sold.
anything she's doing. And so I bought the skincare. So I am also on the same journey as everybody else. I do love things. I do love self-improvement. I do love, but what we don't spend enough time really investing in is how we feel, how we want to feel, and how aligned our lives are. We think that to compensate from a languishing life, a checking the boxes experience is to grab the wine or to make the purchase or we just want the escape. We want the relief. We want the exhale. And so we look for it outside of ourselves. And inherently, to have some of that in your life, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that the misconception is that that's going to last. Mm. My skincare is going to be super exciting for about 24 minutes. And then I'll be like, okay, feels like skincare. I've used skincare before, right? There's nothing incredible. We'll see. I have high hopes, but we'll see. I'm also a realist.
You'll have to
So
report back.
I'm going to report back after 30 days. I'll let you know how it goes.
Sounds good.
So there's nothing wrong with indulging, having fun, spending money the way that makes you feel happy. But when we do that without the work of actually what creates sustainable happiness, what creates fulfillment in your life, that's when it ends up just becoming a Band-Aid. And that's why we end up feeling like it's a never-ending chase. I'm chasing happiness. I'm chasing confidence. I'm chasing beauty. I'm chasing longevity. I'm chasing success. And it's so exhausting. No one wants to chase the good life. But when we learn how to speak the language of the good life, sustainability, fulfillment, flourishing, from what matters, that's when we get to use these fun things as fun things and let them be in their box of fun things, but not what we're depending on to light us up, to make us feel like we can't wait to get out of bed in the morning. It's not going to last, and it ends up feeling disappointing. So we go on to what the next thing is.
Exactly. No, I think that's a great point. It's just like icing on the cake, but underneath, you need your foundational values and what it is that makes you truly happy. You talk a lot about like being aligned and being in alignment. What does that mean to you, or what does it mean to your clients?
Yeah, what I teach women is that alignment is truly about following what I call your North Star. And the North Star has three parts. It's your value system, your core values, it's your signature strengths, and it's your desires. So we, as women, tend to make many decisions that are not about those three things. They are about pleasing people, doing the things we thought we should, using old definitions of success and happiness and just chasing those things. We don't actually stop and say, okay, I want to live a life that's more me, and then ask ourselves, what does that mean? What do I desire? What do I want? What's missing? We just think something outside of me is supposed to change. And that's also where you might see people changing relationships, changing jobs, and still feeling like, why isn't it working? I just got the next certification. I just got promoted to CEO. Why am I not happy? Like you were saying, you wake up and you're like, is this as good as it gets? It's just because so much of the time, women are following what I call the wrong, outdated roadmap. But when you follow the roadmap that is connecting your values, your strengths, what you're naturally good at, and your wants or desires, you can't go wrong because you're now creating a unique, bespoke experience of this life instead of this conditioned, what are the masses doing? Let me just follow the path that everyone's on. No wonder we're not happy. That's not the path for us.
Yeah. Do you think this is something that women struggle with more than men?
I don't know. I love women and I just work with them and they're my favorite. So that's all I really think about is like, how are women doing in the world? But do I think they struggle with it? Yeah, I mean, I do. I can't say that that's actually a fact, but I can say that women do struggle more with people pleasing. And that ends up becoming a big disconnect from self. When we are focused on pleasing others, we often abandon ourselves. And so I do see that more prevalent with women than men. I think that men have their own struggles with what they've been conditioned and taught is success, or what it means to be a man, or what it means to be happy, or what it means to be achievement oriented, or whatever it is. And so conditioning is universal. It's just a matter of, in my world, I just talk a lot about it in the lens of women. There's a lot more imposter syndrome. There's a lot more people pleasing. There's a lot more abandonment of self, because we just think as long as we're liked, as long as we're accepted, as long as they're okay, then we're okay. And it comes from that self-protective safety mechanism. And it's understandable why we still kind of hang on to this outdated system, but it's really ineffective and it's a major cause of discontent. So in my opinion, it's got to go.
No, I absolutely agree. I think it's something across the board. Myself and so many other women I know, we all struggle with people pleasing. I think, like you said, it's just how we're conditioned and how we're socialized. But I think a lot of us are waking up now, and women like you are helping us realize it's not selfish and there's nothing wrong with focusing on ourselves and really tapping into our innate desires and doing the things that we want to do. Because I think when you shine as a woman, like we were talking about before, it inspires other women to shine too. When you really step into your own and step into your sovereignty and your authenticity and are just killing it, it makes other people look and say, oh, wow, I want to do that too in my own flavor and in my own way. So I think there's a beautiful ripple effect that occurs when women stop focusing so much on the outside and really start looking inward and tapping into their own power. It's a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing, and it's extremely important thing, not just for us to get our own needs met, but it's really what women forget often is that the more that you do pour into yourself, the more you take care of yourself, the more you say no and set boundaries, the more that you know what I call know thyself, the more that that exists, the better you are for those around you, the better you are as a parent, as a partner, as a friend, as a coworker, as a boss. And that's often overlooked. So even last night, just this example just came to mind. Last night, my husband wanted to have a conversation, something to do with moving, perhaps. And imagine we talk about anything else. I don't think we do. And I was at capacity. I was like, I cannot have this conversation. And I knew it. I didn't sit there and just kind of pacify and nod and I just said, hey, I can't have this conversation right now because I'm not here. I don't have the capacity to really participate the way I'd want to. Can we pick this up tomorrow? And we kind of like picked a time of day-ish to have the conversation. And it was so automatic for me. But afterwards I thought, wow, that is a journey for women to notice when they feel that resistance because there's something in them that says this isn't the right time. I'm not going to be my best self for this conversation. Why would I want to give my husband, who I love more than anything, just half of my attention or just part of I don't want that for our conversations. And so we often think that setting a boundary, saying no, saying yes to ourselves is selfish, but we forget that it actually serves the whole. It serves the family. It serves our systems, our relationships. Now, when I come back and have this conversation, I'm fully present, awake, have the energy, and now the conversation is going to go so much better, and we'll both feel good about it, potentially, right? Depending on how the detours go during those as well. So this idea of selfishness or self-care or whatever, it's just, I don't feel like I have much tolerance for it anymore. I think I'm so tired of hearing women say, it's so selfish and I couldn't possibly, and I'd feel so guilty. And I do, like, I roll my eyes in my head. I'm like, just stop, like, enough. This is such an old conditioned belief. Like, enough. You owe it to you. You owe it to them. Be your better self. Know what your boundaries are and parameters. Feed your soul, live the lit up life, inspire the world, but most of it, inspire yourself to be your optimized version. And that's it. Can it be simple? And I say this to my clients all the time, and they're like, Wendy, you just said it again. I'm like, I know, but can it be simple? Can it be light? Can you let it not be a struggle? What if it wasn't a struggle to not feel guilt? What if it wasn't a struggle to set the boundary? What if you just said, this doesn't have to be a struggle to get my needs met? I'm making it a struggle. The story in my head is making this a struggle. What if I chose the alternative and a whole world opens that people never even contemplate before they try it?
I think that's absolutely amazing. And everybody benefits from it too. And it's just such a wonderful practice. I've been working on that myself as well. It happened recently with a friend of mine where I had the same conversation where I just knew I couldn't have it in that moment. And I just said, I just don't have space for this right now. And yeah, the guilt creeps in. But then later I had the conversation and I was present. I was able to be there for them and it was great. And I think it's something that we need to practice more and just be more open about. And it's okay when you don't have space. Like, we're taking care of ourselves. We're taking care of our families all the time. We're going to hit points where we just don't have the capacity to take on more. And there's nothing wrong with that. And there's nothing wrong with communicating those boundaries. So I love that you just reminded us of that and just gave us such a solid example of it, because it's something I think we can all do a little bit more often.
Agreed. And often I think it's because many of us think boundaries equals mean. Boundaries equals not nice, unkind. Boundaries equals rejection. And so a lot of the time we don't want someone to feel like we're rejecting them or we're pushing them away or we don't care. And we also don't want to feel rejected in return by setting a boundary and causing conflict in relationships. It's very scary for a lot of women. But something that changed my world when it came to thinking about boundaries was this reminder that boundaries come from love. They're not about hate. They're not about being mean. They're not about being unkind. They're not about being selfish. It's really about love. I love this relationship enough to set a parameter, because if I don't, then we are going to have issues, or I am going to build resentment, or I'm not going to be my best with you, or I am going to take distance and cut the. It's about protecting a relationship, and it comes from a place of love. Setting a boundary with my husband wasn't like, I'm not interested in what you have to say. It was like, I'm actually really interested in having this go well, that I just know my limit. And knowing my limits actually going to let me love you in this way that may not seem obvious at first glance, but now when we have a conversation and it goes well and I'm here, now it felt worth it. So not everyone's going to receive your boundaries right or well-intentioned. You have no control over that. But the idea that boundaries come from love and not from being mean can also, I think, help women feel less guilt about setting them. If we didn't care, we wouldn't set a boundary, we'd just peace out. If we didn't care, we would just ignore or block or cut off or whatever. And instead, setting the boundaries, saying, I care enough to do something that protects us. And this is just the way I need to do it so that I can be my best in this, given whatever the context of the relationship is.
Exactly. No, I think that's a really great point. And we all need to adopt a little bit more of that perspective when we're setting boundaries with people and kind of let go of the guilt and just realize it's coming from a place of love and just wanting to be there for the people we love in our lives.
That's right. That's right. Agreed.
Exactly. So a lot of the listeners who are tuning in right now are going through big life transitions, maybe a divorce, maybe a job loss, just in these transitional liminal periods of their lives. Do you have any thoughts or maybe practical tips for how they can try to cultivate happiness in those in-between stages? Because I think that's when it's so hard to see the light, but it is possible to find joy in those places. But I was curious if you had any advice or thoughts on how they could do that during those chapters.
I think in my career, it's been very rare that I haven't had thoughts on things like this. My clients will be like, do you have any thoughts on this? And I'm like, I always have thoughts. I always have thoughts. There's always something I think of that's like, you know what, this is what I would say. So take it or leave it always, right? My opinion's one of many. And being living proof of going through a transitional time myself, what helps me and what I teach is two things. One, create a foundation, an environment. This could be habits, routines, rituals, the way you greet a day, the way you close a day. Create a foundation, an environment that supports the way you most want to feel. So that does come down to how you prioritize sleep, how you prioritize nutrition and hydration, how you prioritize relationships, which ones you may take distance from at this stage of transition, which ones you want to hold a little bit closer and tighter during this period of transition. The foundation is what we want to feel solid. Now, what happens for so many is that during stressful times, women start to fall off from habits, start to fall off from routines because they feel not as urgent, and stress or anxiety pulls their energy to something else over here. Now we're fracturing that foundation that actually keeps us healthy and well. So counterintuitively, in the moment, you're going to think, I don't need to do that workout. I'm too tired, or I don't need to pause and have lunch because I'm too stressed. I need to keep going, or whatever it is, or I just don't feel well. That foundation is what's going to be your best friend, honestly. And it's what you have control over. And it could be, depending on your transition, the only thing you do have control over. How I greet a day, how I close a day, what habits I do, what habits I skip, the promises I keep, the promises I break. That's all we have control over is within ourselves. So foundation's really important. And it's not the first time your listeners have heard this, of course, because we hear it every day. Yeah, I know I got to get some steps. I got to work out. I got to eat well, whatever. And it's easy to get annoyed with the same advice, but truly this is what keeps us feeling healthy. And the healthier we feel, the stronger we feel, the more resilient we feel, the more capable and capacity we have to handle the things outside of our control that come up during the course of a day. So that's a big piece. And I actually created years ago, now that I'm thinking of this, years ago, I created for my clients at the time this calendar. And you'd print out the calendar, and it was called Grapes, was the mnemonic. It was called Grapes, and I would say, eat your grapes every day. And what was it? It was broken down into, G was gratitude. So write down one thing every day you feel grateful for, but it can't be general, like my family or my friends, or it has to be specific. R was relaxation, making sure you do something every day, even if it's 30 seconds, to just exhale. You know, sit and stare at the wall and put on classical music, do a meditation, get a massage, go to bed early, whatever. So that's R. A was accomplishment. So do something that allows you to complete something on your list. The completion, really, we tend to feel really good when we complete something, so it doesn't drag into the next day. P is for pleasure, doing something that's meant to be fun. Now, a lot of people will reach out to me on socials and say, you're always having fun and I want
You
more.
are. You live your best life. I love it. Like I just saw you had your girls trip and like your life looks so fun and exciting. It's inspiring to watch. It really is. You've really created a life that looks so fun and fulfilling.
Thank you. That means a lot because we leave for another girls trip tomorrow.
Oh my gosh, I'm so here for it. I love it.
Oh my goodness. Which is for my birthday, which is really fun and so exciting that my girls were able to rally. At the night away when you're a mom is like no easy feat either.
Oh, for sure.
So people will say like, it looks so fun and I want more fun. How do you do it? I used to think, why do people notice this is a thing? This is a thing that I'm having more fun than people are. I don't understand. And I didn't understand the disconnect until we started to dive in. Women don't give themselves permission to prioritize fun because they think it should be at the end of the list. If there's time, but now I'm too tired, so I'm not going to. And so I incorporated that into grapes. Pleasure is a really, what the hell are we doing? If we're not enjoying our life, what are we doing? We have this one life. If we're not what I call seizing and savoring it, if we're not trying to prioritize the joy that we could feel, what are we doing? E is exercise. I don't need to talk about that. And then S is social. So something to connect with somebody every day. Could be a text. That's not ideal. FaceTime's better. Phone call, in-person coffee, date, whatever is better. But if you just eat your grapes every day, this is a beautiful foundation that you have control over. And that investment of time, even just 30 seconds for each thing, can really make a difference in how you handle transitions in life. So that's the big part, is the foundation always, always, always. The other part of it, and I have a couple clients right now going through really major transitions, going through some difficult things. And one thing that really helps them to hold on to is not to focus so much on, oh, look, like in positive psychology, we say, look for the good, look for the good, three good things. You can do that. But sometimes even that feels too big. Well, instead, look for the glimmers.
I love that. I've heard of those recently, the glimmers. Yeah.
You did? It's like lines could be mostly closed, but you see this tiny little stream of light coming in. And that tiny little stream of light could be all you need in a moment to just feel like, I'm okay. It's okay. I see light. I see a glimmer. It doesn't have to be, a lot of times women will focus on what they might see on socials. I imagine I may inspire you, and I trigger 6,000 other women that are like, I can't watch her because she's having fun and it's not my story and my lot in life is different. So everything that we like really inspires us or that we can appreciate are things that we could also have a very different story and reject. But when we look for the tiny little slivers, the little glimmers of light in a major time of chaos, I'm going through a major time of chaos right now. And my little glimmers are like teeny. It's like, oh, Handmaid's Tale, let's watch it. Oh, light my candle, it's raining out, let's feel like hygge and feel cozy. Oh, you know what, I'm not cooking dinner tonight, we're gonna do this. Tiny little glimmers of something that just feels like a touch point of happy, a touch point of positive, a touch point of something that feels grounded. It doesn't have to be the big milestones. And a lot of women think, oh, because I don't have this or that, or I'm not here, there, or I'm behind, or I'm too old, or I'm too young, or whatever it is, the story, they use that as a reason to just dismiss everything. It's an all or nothing experience. But looking for these tiny little glimmers in a day, and you start to extract those tiny little threads, that can make a huge difference in how you experience a day that could otherwise be total chaos.
It's true. And it seems like a much more sustainable way too, versus like doing something big or taking a big trip. It's just these little moments of joy that remind you that there's more out there. And it provides you with hope in a way that it's not always going to be this dark. And those little pinpricks of light, like, will get bigger and bigger over time as you enter whatever next chapter you're going to enter into. And I love the grapes analogy too. It's kind of like a mind, body, soul approach to it. It's just like from a physical aspect, community, all of it. So I think I'm going to use that. I'm going to steal that one. So thank you.
I'll have to send you the grapes calendar.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Start to fill that out.
That's awesome. Well, Dr. Wendy, this conversation has been so great. I'd love to close with one final question for you. Is there a practice or a mindset shift that you come back to time and time again that helps ground you when you're feeling maybe a little chaotic or maybe not aligned in a certain moment?
So I just turned 46 a few days ago.
Stop it. Really? You do
Yeah.
not look 46. Is it all the skincare you're using?
It's all the skincare I'm about to use. It's already working, and it was worth every penny because you just said that. So now I'm very excited about this.
I'm very surprised. Guys, if you're listening, go check out the reels because she doesn't look 46.
Oh my gosh, you're adorable. Thank you. I'm going to be here with you forever now. So I just turned 46, and on my 46th birthday, I thought to myself, what are my reflections? I'm not really someone who journals. I'm not someone who's always, I'm just like in life, in the moment. But I wanted to reflect. And the thing that really stood out to me was that of all my long years on this planet so far, what seems to be, when I distill it down to what has mattered most to me, it's love and it's health. And love doesn't just mean I'm in a loving marriage. That's not it. It's loving your purpose, loving yourself, loving what you do, loving how you show up, loving who you surround yourself with, loving who you invest time with, loving what you do for work every day, loving how you wake up and go to sleep. It's like loving life and people in it and yourself on the journey is number one. Everything else starts to fade away as soon as that becomes the real focus. The second piece is health, because without it, it's very difficult to do just about anything that you really, truly want to do. So it just does end up there. It's not my favorite category. I really don't love investing in my health. I'm like, oh, get out of the way. You're slowing me down. I want to have more fun. But it is a really important piece. So when I'm going through, as I am now, a crazy, tumultuous time, world turns upside down experience, what I most focus on is what's going to help me feel healthy and well today. What's going to allow me to tap into love. And it's not an absolute. It's not like, oh, healthy means I'm eating 6 salads today and I'm only drinking water and I'm not drinking wine. And it's not that. I'm just need to prioritize my ability to navigate some storms. And if I'm feeling weak and underslept and don't have enough the right foods and I'm not taking care of myself, I'm not pushing some of my limits with exercise or walking, I'm going to feel like the days are harder. And I don't want the days to feel harder. These days are hard enough. Thank you, check, I've got it. But love and health are the things I remind myself of every day. If I do one thing for health today, and I do one thing to feel love or to give love today, what else matters? These are walls. There will be new walls, right? These are bills. There will be new bills.
Always.
Right? It's all of this stuff is just stuff around me, but at the core of it, what helps me feel my best aren't these things. So a lot of times we think, oh, if I can't wait to get the next job, if I just get my next job, or if I just get this certification, or if I just start my business, or I just get my first client, or I just leave and start a practice, or if I just get married or have a kid, we think it's I'll be happier when. But I'm here to say I've done all of those things. I haven't bungee jumped, so I don't know if that makes you happier. But I've done all of those big things, bought a house and had a husband and have 3 kids and have the pets and have the doctorate, all those things, all the things that you're told to do to be happy or successful. And what I'll distill it down to is at the end of the day, what grounds me and what will ground you is love and health. And it's that simple. And if that's what's guiding your decisions and your choices, you can't go wrong.
That's so simple, but so powerful at the same time. So thank you for reminding us of that. Dr. Wendy, where can people find out more about you and your coaching services and all the great things that you do?
I am mostly on Instagram, but I've recently been a little bit of everywhere. So Dr. Wendy O'Connor, Dr. Wendy O'Connor. You can find me on Instagram or LinkedIn or Facebook. Come say hi. I love meeting everybody and seeing what's going on in your life. And if ever there's anything I can do to support any of your listeners, of course, I'd be honored to. But I just love new faces. So feel free to just come introduce yourself.
Awesome. Dr. Wendy, thank you so much for this conversation. I had such a great time talking with you and just hearing your story. And you have so many nuggets of wisdom in this episode. So thank you so much. But, you just remind us that we're never stuck. We always have the power to change things up and create a life that is aligned, fulfilling, expansive. And no, it might not happen overnight, but with intention, with support, and with aligned action, we have the power to create lives that we love. So thank you for all your words of wisdom and for reminding us of that today.
Thank you so much for having me. And honestly, none of those things you just mentioned would even be possible without embracing the detours in life that we go on. And so if I could leave your listeners with anything, it's don't fear the detours. Don't fear the detours. They are in your path for a reason. You will come out on the other side with nuggets and life experience and new realizations and happiness that you never imagined were possible before going through them. So they are not the enemy.
We're here for the detours. Thank you so much, Dr. Wendy. Thanks for listening to The Great Detour. If you're enjoying the show, I'd love if you could leave a rating or review wherever you listen to podcasts. It really does help the show have a greater impact. Also, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Have your own detour story? You can share it with me by visiting thegreatdetour.com or The Great Detour on Instagram. Thanks for taking this journey with me.